Okay, let's dig into this. There's definitely a huge buzz around Dholera Smart City in India. I mean, everyone seems to be talking about the potential.
They really are.
But what's the actual story on the ground? Especially, for investors.
Right.
We've gone through the sources you sent, and, well, our mission here is to try and cut through some of that hype.
Get to the substance.
Exactly. We want to figure out who is really putting money into Dholera based on the material, understand what opportunities the sources highlight, and critically help you think about whether it fits your own goals. The sources definitely frame it as this major future opportunity, like maybe India's next big economic engine. But, what's really behind that?
Well, what's striking in the sources is seeing the scale of commitment from the big players. It's not just talk.
Okay.
You have major Indian companies making real bets. Reliance Industries, for instance. They're setting up a massive green hydrogen hub there.
A green hydrogen hub. Why Dholera?
The sources mention its potential for renewables, huge land availability. It makes sense from that perspective. Then you've got Tata Power Solar. They've signed big deals for renewable projects right in the special investment region.
Okay, so energy is a big theme.
Definitely. And then industrial giants, Adani Group, L&T, Vedanta, they've all shown strategic interest.
And what specifically?
Mostly the core stuff, infrastructure, logistics, the smart utilities you need to actually, build a city.
Right, building it from scratch, basically. So these aren't just vague expressions of interest. These are tied to actual large projects.
That's what the sources indicate, yes. Concrete commitments. And it's not just Indian firms either.
Oh, really?
Who else is involved?
Yeah, the sources point to growing foreign interest, too. Companies from Japan, the UAE, parts of Europe.
What?
They're actively looking into specific sectors, things like electric vehicle manufacturing, big solar farms, data centers.
Data centers, huh? Interesting. And the material suggests this early foreign interest is drawn by the clear planning, the integrated infrastructure idea, and specific incentives. It feels like this phase is just getting started.
Okay, that paints a clear picture of the corporate side. But what if you're listening and you're an individual investor, maybe not planning to, build a factory? Where did the sources say the opportunities are?
Right. Well, for individual investors, the sources really highlight land. Land is singled out as kind of the hottest opportunity right now.
Why land specifically?
Because prices, while they're going up, are still, let's say, more accessible compared to big established cities. But, and this is important, the sources stress that this window, it's closing fast.
Okay, so timing is key. Are there specific areas mentioned?
Yes, they point to specific zones, Town Planning Scheme 2 or TP2, TP4, and particularly the main activation area. These are the places seeing rapid change.
Hang on. Town Planning Scheme, activation area. Can you quickly break down what the sources mean by that, just for clarity?
Good point, yeah. So the sources explain Dholera is built around these detailed PP schemes. Think of them like master plans for different zones.
Okay.
They lay out everything: land use, industrial, residential, commercial roads, water, utilities. Understanding these schemes is, pretty crucial because they dictate what goes where.
Got it. And the activation area?
That's mentioned as the first core zone where development, infrastructure, plotting, it's most advanced right now. It's like the first piece of the city really coming online.
Right, makes sense. And the sources say prices there in those specific spots are moving quickly.
Very quickly. The sources cite figures showing price rises between reportedly 30% and 50% just in the last few years in those areas like TP2, TP4, the activation area.
Wow, that's significant.
It is. And the sources link it directly to the visible progress, the infrastructure going in and these big companies moving in nearby. So plots there, industrial, residential, commercial, they are talked about as potential future gold mines. But
there's always a but, isn't there? What's the catch?
The sources really, really stress due diligence. It's non-negotiable. Especially for land, they hammer home the need for clear title. Clear
titles. Okay. What exactly does that mean in this context, according to the sources?
Essentially, it means verifying you have undisputed legal ownership, making absolutely sure there are no existing claims or disputes or anything that could mess with your ownership later.
Yeah.
Given the scale of land acquisition for a project like this, the sources kind of imply that checking the legal history thoroughly is fundamental. You don't want problems down the line.
That's really vital practical advice from the sources. Okay, so let's tie it all together for the listener. The big question. Based on this material, should you consider investing in Dholera?
Well, Based purely on the sources, the consensus is very clear. This is a long-term game. Absolutely.
Let it get rich quick scheme.
Definitely not. Don't expect overnight returns. It's positioned for people, individuals or businesses who really believe in that long-term vision. Integrated smart cities, big industrial growth, the green tech shift.
And do the sources suggest different approaches for different types of investors, like small versus large?
Yes, they do. For smaller individual investors, the advice is start by really understanding those TP schemes we talked about.
Right.
Figure out which zones match your goals: residential, industrial. Then explore options like government auctions, often more transparent, and research the reputable developers who are active early on.
And for businesses?
For business owners, the sources say explore the government incentives. There are apparently significant ones, plus things like single window clearances for setting up factories or warehouses. It's a big draw for the major players, and it applies to smaller companies, too.
Right. And connecting this back to the bigger picture, the sources aren't just selling real estate here, are they?
No, not at all. The narrative consistently frames Dholera as something much bigger. It's positioned as a strategic national project aimed at boosting India's industrial future and how it develops cities.
That phrase, India's next economic engine, keeps coming up in the source material.
Exactly. And the sources suggest that's not just marketing talk. It reflects the government's vision and the planned infrastructure that's pulling in all this investment.
Okay. So, wrapping up, the key takeaway from these sources seems to be Dholera offers diverse opportunities, but they're mainly long-term. They're backed by significant corporate money and a strong government vision for future growth.
That sums it up well.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is to consider the potential impact. What could it mean to be part of something positioned so strongly by these sources as India's next economic engine, right from this relatively early stage? What does taking that really long view imply about the potential scale of opportunity? Definitely something to think about.